Happy Tuesday. Today is March 11th, 2025. I am meteorologist Tom Schmidt with Ozarks first in Springfield, Missouri. We are now just 3 days behind our time change, going from standard time this winter over toward daylight saving time this spring and this summer. So what does that typically look like for us here? We go through the month of March, first of all, and we gain a lot of light. March is the month we actually gain the most daylight in the month of March here. So we see about a daylight gain of about 70 minutes here in the Ozarks for the month of March. Now, we just made the time change, right? We went from, again, standard time this winter over to daylight saving time in the spring and summer. So there's always this debate that pops up this time of year. Should we keep daylight saving time or keep standard time? Some folks say, I don't care which one we choose, just choose one and stick to it. Others don't seem to be bothered too much by it, think it's a good idea to stay on these time changes twice a year. So let's take a look at this first, okay? What if we kept daylight saving time, which is where we are now? So we're on this time through about November 1st, and then that night, November 1st into November 2nd, we would change back to standard time. We would fall back November 1st that evening for this year. So if we stayed on daylight saving time where we are now, well, you can see some folks wouldn't see the sunrise until 10 a.m. or later in parts of North Dakota. Here in the central U.S., looking at parts of Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, our latest sunrise in mid-December would be about 8:30 to 9 a.m. if we kept on daylight saving time. So again, and some folks wouldn't really be that big of a deal. Okay, the latest sunrise you'd see if you were down in maybe Mobile, Alabama, or Birmingham, or really the state of Alabama, latest sunrise you'd see there is maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning for the winter time. Not too bad, right? You're thinking, well, that's kind of doable. But there are some spots that would be impacted by a 10 a.m. or later sunrise if we chose as a nation to stay on daylight saving time. All right, so some of the differences here. So sunrise comparison between daylight saving time, where we are now, versus standard time, where we just came from over the winter time. All right, so what that means for us is today our sunrise was 7:29 this morning. Well, if we had stayed on standard time, it would be 6:29 in the morning. Meanwhile, the longest day, June 21st, our sunrise on daylight saving time, or what we're used to, is 5:53 in the morning. If we don't set the clocks forward 1 hour, if we don't spring forward by 1 hour, our sunrise time here in Springfield would be 4:53 in the morning come the first day of summer. Now, speaking of the winter, that's the summertime. What if we go into the winter time, right? November 3rd, we'd be back in standard time. So typically, our sunrises, November 3rd, would be 6:40 in the morning, pretty typical. If we stayed on daylight saving time, if we didn't fall back on November 1st, our sunrise would then be 7:40. And the latest sunrise of the year for us, if we kept daylight saving time in Springfield, would be 8:23 in the morning versus 7:23, which is what it's going to be this December 21st. That's a good kind of estimate of seeing of, well, how early would the sun come up? How late would the sun come up if we went with one or the other? Okay, so picking your favorite might not be too easy there. Now let's look at the sunsets, right? We did sunrises. Let's now compare the sunsets. So today the sunset is 7:17 p.m. If we had kept standard time, it'd be 6:17 p.m., all right? Now going to the longest day of the year, June 21st, first day of summer, our sunsets are going to be 8:36 p.m. on daylight saving time. If we had stayed on standard time, our sunset for June 21 would be 7:36 p.m. Not too bad, right? And then you go into November 3rd. So instead of falling back an hour, if we keep daylight saving time through the fall into the winter, our sunset would be 6:12 p.m. instead of 5:12 p.m. And come the first day of winter, December 21st, our sunset would be 5:59 p.m. instead of 4:59 p.m., which is what it's going to be. We're back on standard time on December 21st, and sunsets around that time are around 5 p.m. So there you go. Look at the data. I look at these numbers. I kind of feel like standard time would be okay, but you got to remember, if you're going to be going with standard time, there's going to be some pretty early sunrises there as we go into summertime, all right? Looking at sunrises before 5 a.m., all right, if we stay on standard time year-round, which is what is typically seen when a country or even a state here in the U.S. decides to quit following daylight saving time. They default to standard time. Okay, that would be the one. So the column on the right would be the time we would keep if we decided to ditch daylight saving time. All right, so there you go. Just one little look at that. That's always a big debate this time of year, folks. I know, get groggy, get kind of tired. Maybe you're a little fed up with having to change the clocks. I know a lot of times it just happens automatically now on your phone, and a lot of other things we have. My car did it by itself as well. We're catching up to that, so it's not so much of a hassle, but it is still kind of a hassle on your sleep, kind of wears you down. A whole lot of studies that say that car accidents increase after the time change, especially after you lose an hour of sleep in the springtime when you spring forward. So it's a good debate. It's a fascinating debate, but now you've seen the numbers. What would change? What would your sunsets be? What would your sunrises be if we stayed on one versus the other? So kind of interesting topic, really interesting, and a lot of folks spark up the debate this time of year with that. All right, we're going to end this episode with a picture of the day. This picture here is from Christy Ross up in Lincoln, Missouri. She's got daffodils sprouting up from her yard, and you'll start to see a couple flowers sprout on up. Daffodils, very common around here, as well as tulips. You'll start to see those leaves start to peek up, green sprouts coming from the dirt. Okay, so thank you, Christy, for sending this in. We appreciate your pictures. Keep an eye out, folks, as spring is right around the corner. Spring begins March 20th, right? And so we're 9 days away from that happening. Something else happening this week. We'll touch on this in more detail for tomorrow. But we have a total lunar eclipse that will be visible here in the Ozarks later this week. I believe it's the 13th, which is Thursday, through the 15th, Friday. Now, it's going to be an overnight event. Okay, it looks like it'll be midnight to 3 a.m. You'll be able to catch that total lunar eclipse here in the Ozarks. We'll take on more details of that coming up in the next segment of Science with Schmidt for your Wednesday, tomorrow, March 12th. Meantime, we'll wrap up this episode. Have a good Tuesday. It's a great day today. Temperatures getting up to the 80s. We'll have 70s again tomorrow. And we are watching a storm come together for Friday. We'll probably touch on those details as that storm gets closer later in the week. But Friday is the day we're watching for storms. It'll also be very windy. More details to come there. Enjoy your Tuesday.